What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Talk Talk Punch. Thanks so much for joining us. Now, whether you're watching us here on YouTube or listening in on the audio version of the podcast, make sure you go ahead and subscribe, then come back here every Wednesday to see what we're talking about, kind of like this week's topic. It's the top 3 non-superhero comic book movies, or graphic novel, if you will, if they just came out in the graphic novel format as opposed to the comic book single issue format. However you play it, pictures, word balloons, non-superhero. That's it. All right.
Well said.
Nice.
Now, okay, Charlie, how did you build this list? What methodology did you use?
The scientific method, bro. It was a lot of science.
That's good to know. That's good to know.
I got in the laboratory. I had some formulas that I experimented with. The right amount of me liking the movie versus the right amount of the graphic novel, both existing and being something that would be worth reading. And then kind of balancing on some Excel spreadsheets. I surveyed a lot of people. I did some cold calls. People were very excited to talk to me. Just a lot of cold calling. People loved it. So, what about you, Dylan? How did you do a similar thorough methodology?
Well, I did do a similar thorough. See, whereas you did a scientific method, I use a mathematic method. And because you can only find truth in mathematics, they say. No, I actually was looking at different movies some that I was just kind of thinking of, and I was like, that it's got to be based on a graphic novel. So I did some research on it, and there's some out there that I found out I didn't realize, and I don't know. I just kind of looked around to see what I could find. I didn't have too much of a method. It was very unmathematic.
Hey, that's kind of what I did. I just kind of thought of stuff that I was like, I know that one's based on a comic book, and then I kind of just ranked them in my head and put them out there. So, I didn't look at scores. I didn't go on IMDb or anything like that. It was kind of just like these. I think these are my favorite ones. These are the ones that I would watch again, that I would enjoy watching. All right. Well, with that, let's go ahead and get started. Number 3. Now we're starting with a me this time.
Pick for number 3.
It's a me.
It's a me. All right. Let's see here. Do this. There we go. All right. My number 3, Dread. Now this is not the not the Sylvester Stallone Dread or the Arnold Schwarzenegger Dread. The Sylvester Stallone Dread. That one was not that good. I remember watching it as a kid and kind of liking it, but then revisiting it years later, and it was like, this is not very good. But this one, with Carl Urban, my wife's favorite actor.
Oh, excellent.
Carl Urban.
Excellent.
This one is great.
Carl Urban,
this
there you
one's
go.
really good. This one suffered from some of the worst marketing that I've ever seen, though, because it just came out, and the studio was like, they had nothing to say about it. And then it came out, and then it didn't do very well in the box office, and there was all this talk of could it be a franchise? And everybody was like, this is great, and then it made no money because nobody knew it was coming out. but this one's really cool. I believe this was rated R. It had to have been, because this was very violent.
Yeah. People died. A lot of people died.
And one thing what's up?
I've got a question for you, bro.
Okay.
Now, how do you differentiate then between a Dredd, who you're saying is non-superhero, or Batman? Would you say he's also not superhero, or?
Batman has supervillains.
Oh, okay. Doesn't Dredd have supervillains?
Dredd
too,
is
though?
also not.
He has some that are dead.
Dredd is also not a hero at all. He is very much killing people. He's more in lines of a Punisher.
Well, I'd say he's a superhero too, but okay, I see your point. Very good. Hey, that's an excellent pick, an excellent movie.
I think one of the reasons,
circle around to these supervillains in Batman fights.
Yeah, right. I think one of the reasons
Joker's a supervillain.
that this movie was better than Stallone was in the Stallone one. Dredd was the main character. And one thing I really liked about this one is that it was this outside partner person that was coming in. And Dredd was just kind of like, he was there throughout the movie, but he wasn't really the main character. And so he didn't need to take off his helmet. He didn't need to have like all this dialogue and stuff like that. It was just like, you just saw Dredd like working his way up this building. And it was awesome. So that is
This was the first movie I ever watched. I had a TV that had the 3D capability. So you get the glasses, and this was the first movie I ever tried to watch at home in 3D, and it was I enjoyed the movie, but the 3D experience was not great. It might have also been the last movie I ever tried to watch at home in the 3D. It was like 10-minute increments of watching, and then headaches, and then like, oh god, this is terrible.
Yeah,
it's a fun movie.
The 3D fad. Yeah, that came and went pretty quick.
Yes, it did.
All right. There's my number 3, Dredd 3D, apparently, according to this poster.
Nice.
All right. Tudong, your number 3.
My number 3, it surprised me to find out this was a graphic novel, The History of Violence. I watched that once, and I it was one of those movies you see with, it's on cable and it's kind of later at night, and you're watching, you're like, interesting. What the heck? There is some serious violence in this. They don't shy away. It is shockingly
It is
violent,
a history of violence.
It is a history.
Yes.
It's also like a lesson in it. But I mean, I thought that Viggo Mortensen, I thought he was at one of his peaks when he was acting. He was the Return of the King and whatnot. But I mean, I thought he was phenomenal in it. I thought everybody was really good in it. And when I found out it was a graphic novel, I was like, well, it counts for the list then.
Did you go and read the graphic novel then?
No. Oh. It's tough. I mean, like, as much as I like this movie,
absolutely not.
It's tough to go back and watch because of that violence. But Viggo Mortensen's performance, unbelievable. Everybody in it is surprisingly unbelievable. Everybody is really great. So
this one almost made my list. I was revisiting some of the sequences of it and reading about it a little bit, and there's that kind of, I don't want to say famous, but like infamous scene where Viggo is making love and they're on the stairs, and it's a little, and it comes through like a little rapey
or violent,
and
because it is
it's violent, and the director was like really disappointed that people got that impression from it, because it was supposed to just be like really passionate and aggressive. But it's like it was like, I remember watching it for the first, I didn't expect I didn't know how violent it would be. I wasn't, and it's like kind of this like rapey sex scene on the stairs, and you're kind of like, what am I watching? What's happening? What happened? I just saw Viggo Lord of the Rings. I don't know. I just thought I'd give it a shot.
I bet.
But if you do watch it, just know it's meant to just be a passionate love scene.
And I'm sure it's in that one scene that like your wife walks in and is like, what are you watching?
I did watch it with her, which made it a little bit more uncomfortable.
In on those stairs, I mean, that's violence.
Oh, she Maria Bella was quoted, and she had like bruises all over her and stuff from like the wooden stairs. Not a sexy place to be intimate with someone. It's very uncomfortable to be just.
Oh man!
But it's a really good movie. You can't say it's not. I mean, it is still a really good movie.
It's a good movie. It's very compelling.
And
very compelling.
I don't want to see how the graphic novel was. I'm sure it's even more graphic.
Probably.
It's certainly more novel.
Ooh, there you go. All right, Charlie, you're number 3.
Here come the Men in Black. Galaxy Defenders. Before it was a cartoon series, it was a movie. And before it was a movie, it was a comic book. So back in the 1990s, if you kids can remember back that far, if not, ask your parents. It was a time of, well, decadence, but there was some really nice things happening. You had this comic book run, Aerosol Comics, that's one. And then that was bought by Malibu Comics, which was then bought by Marvel Comics.
Yep.
And then, of course, Marvel's like making the money on the Men in Black franchise, which was just such a really enjoyable movie. I forgot how much I rewatched this one with the kids, and it's just really fun, kind of like upbeat comedic film. I think it still holds up. And really, and if I'm being honest, anything with Tony Shalhoub in it is great. He's a scene stealer in this movie, and I thought Will Smith being the best version of Will Smith, and even Tommy Lee Jones, who seems like a very unpleasant human being, probably to spend time with, is good in this film. So definitely, I haven't had a chance to read any of the comic books.
Okay,
but I was excited to kind of I've been adding comic books and graphic novels to my Christmas wish list.
Nice.
So I think I'm gonna try to check some of these out. So
there you go.
Yeah, I think they're darker than the movie. So
usually,
which is good.
Did your kids like the movie? Was it like okay for them? Like scare wise?
Yeah, they enjoyed it. No, it's not scary. They enjoyed it. They kind of they liked it. It's hard to tell. I mean, they didn't like love it.
Gotcha.
But they liked it. They didn't like get sucked in like they do with Gremlins, but. Or I showed a Monster Squad, and I forgot how inappropriate at times that movie is, and how just much language has evolved. And I can remember like the Wolfman has nards thing, and I'm like, okay, well that's if that's the worst of it, we're good, but that's certainly not the worst of it. There was some certainly uncomfortable moments. That was a an uncomfortable parenting moment. I was like, I really should have watched this before showing it, but it was fine. They liked it. The next day, they're like, Wolfman has nards. That's good.
Nice. All right. Moving on to number 2. Now, I don't know if I should preface my number 2 or if I should just go right into it. I think I'll just go right into it. All right. My number 2 is 300. Now, I know that Zack Snyder is not the greatest, and I know that he's got a particular style that doesn't work with all movies, as we have seen with the past couple. But I think his style for this movie worked really well, and I really enjoy this movie. Dylan is dying there.
You are so I'm not gonna argue. I think it's a good pick for you. I mean, bro, you don't have to defend yourself. You're like, let me tell you something.
I like 300. Okay,
what did you like about it?
So this came early on, and the visuals of this I really enjoyed. Yes, it's loose on story, which probably works well for Zack Snyder. But the visual parts of this, I thought, looked really cool. And at the time, when this came out, this was like, whoa. Like, to see the complete CGI surroundings that actually looked good, because we're coming off of, like the Star Wars prequels, which a lot of times didn't look good. But we kind of moved into... Like, this came out, and it was like, this movie looks amazing. And I haven't watched it a bit. It probably doesn't hold up as well as I kind of have in my mind. But I remember watching this and being like, this is so cool. And at the time, Zack Snyder with his slow-mos, at this point, the slow-mos are almost kind of a joke with him. But at the time, we were coming out of, like, the really fast cut scenes that were so popular. And so to then see fight scenes that were slowed down, I remember... There was a couple like just long shots where it would slow down and then speed up and slow down. And I was like, that is so neat. And you can see all this stuff. So I really enjoy this one. Still, like I said, I haven't watched it in a bit. It may not hold up quite like it does in my head. But I enjoyed this one. So, did you guys like this one at all? I know, Dylan, you are really not a fan of Zack Snyder.
We will cover the sky and arrows, but then we shall fight in the shade. I didn't. No, I saw it and I was like, that's interesting. I think aesthetically, I think that you're right. I think that it's aesthetically, the pictures that it presents are good, and to stretch that that out. I mean, I'm not going to give Zack Snyder any credit. That's what you're waiting for, bro. I'm not going to give him any credit. I don't know what you're waiting for. There's nothing happening. That's as far as it goes.
I was just going to say that's probably the nicest thing you've ever said about Zack Snyder. So that's fine.
He seems like a nice guy. He really does.
Just direct all of your hate comments towards Brody and Dylan. If you have trouble remembering which one of us is which, just remember that the guy with the hair didn't say anything bad about Zack Snyder. I think he's fantastic. I think he is a master of tone and ambiance, and he definitely set a wonderful visual tone in the movie 300, and it was at the time incredibly compelling when it came out.
It's only missing more Ben Affleck.
You never have enough Benny.
Never enough Ben Affleck. But no, I liked this one. This is my number 2. My number 2 of all time non-superhero comic book movies is Zack Snyder's 300, which is actually, I think it's actually Miller's 300.
Yeah.
Frank Miller's, okay. Yeah.
Greg Miller's 300. So, but there you go. All right. Two Dog, your number 2 is...
Interesting that you brought up Frank Miller, because my number 2 happens to be Frank Miller's Sin City.
Did I say Greg
which
Miller?
I actually remember watching with you, Charlie, and it was phenomenal and amazing. And it is one of those where Robert Rodriguez, he made it as comic book as it could get without it being bad and cheesy like Ang Lee's Hulk. But everything about it I thought was unbelievable. And you knew it was a graphic novel when you're walking right into it and you see it. I mean, speaking of true visionaries, Brode, of actual I don't want to say less more, but I loved how they sparsed out the color and the black and white. I thought the entire thing was
very
excellent.
Cool. Very cool.
Poor Ang Lee sitting at home, popping on our podcast just to enjoy a little. He's like, I want to hear these top threes, and then he's like getting blasted by Dylan for no reason. Poor Ang Lee. We're sorry, Ang.
You remember Hulk? Did you remember that?
Which is a superhero comic book movie. This is the wrong episode today.
I don't feel bad, sir. You tried to do something like this. I get it, and it's okay. But Sin City was phenomenal. That changed a lot, and it was just too bad that the sequel was so far away after that, and just horrible.
Well, they had to do
way too far.
They had to do The Spirit in between, right? Was it The Spirit?
They didn't have to do that. They never should have done that. But hey, yeah, that was fair.
All right, Charlie. No, yes, Charlie.
My number 2.
You're number 2.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. No preface. All you need is kill.
What is this? I don't even know what this is.
You guys don't know what movie this is?
No.
That's no. I know
goodness.
this movie. This is
what movie is it?
Was that
movie is it?
Is this Live Die Repeat?
That's the Tom Cruise movie. The where he's
Edge of Tomorrow / Live Die Repeat
tomorrow
/ All You Need Is Kill.
Oh, so I didn't know it was. I didn't know the book was called that.
So you
get that. That's a good choice.
This would have made my list had I known that.
I forgot about that completely.
I was really excited to find out, just to dig into more of the source material. So there's like a novel, and then there was like a graphic, like an actual like book, and then it kind of splintered into like more of a serialized kind of thing. But just a really great story. The movie is just, I mean, if you're a big hardcore Talk Punch fan, you've heard me talk about this movie before. I truly do love it. It is still, I check every month. It is still not available on any of the major streaming services. But if it ever is, I will immediately update all of you viewers, because you will all be required to go watch it if you haven't seen it. In the meantime, get the book. So join me, because I will be getting the entirety of the All You Need Is Kill catalog, and reading through it and enjoying it, because it is a very compelling and interesting story. Plus, look at that guy. Look at it. He's saying, "Read me," and I do think the graphic novel is a little bit more entertaining. In some ways, like comedic. In some ways, like the guy is just like a really terrible soldier and just dies instantaneously on the battlefield. And then he's like skill building to become a great like warrior. And whereas Tom Cruise, he already starts out. He's already Tom Cruise. What are you gonna do? He's got no off switch. That boy. He's out there doing his own stunts, jumping on couches.
He's still working on a sequel,
Yeah, I hope so.
The movie came out in 2014.
What? If it comes out anytime in the next 5 years, it'll still be sooner than the Sin City 2 sequel.
That is true.
like 40 years later.
40. I'm trying to figure out what company did it.
Like which company did the original All You Need
did the movie Edge of Tomorrow. Village Roadshow was a production company.
Was it Paramount? It was Paramount.
No, it's not. Well, it's not on Paramount Plus.
Yeah, I don't know.
But, you know.
It's not Universal. That's not a Universal one. It's not Warner Brothers, I don't think. Yeah.
No, distributed by Warner Brothers. It should be on HBO Max.
It's not, though. Oblivion is, if you're into a sci-fi Tom Cruise, but not Edge of Tomorrow.
This should be streaming. This movie is really good.
It's really good. Yeah. How is this not your number one?
Oh, you'll see.
What could be his number one?
Speaking of number ones.
All right. Speaking of number ones, thank you for the segue, Tudong. My number one. Now, Tudong, I didn't talk too much during your number two because it's my number one.
Hey.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, man. This was kind of like how I liked 300 for all of the visual stuff that they did. This one was that and more. Like all the stuff that they did playing with colors, all the stuff that they did like with the glowing and the whites to make the whites like ultra bright, and then even I like when they have multiple stories and they kind of cut them and intersplice them into different places so that you watch this little like anthology piece and then like you see characters like later on in other sets and you're like, oh, there's that guy. So I really enjoyed this. I agree. I think that the sequel came out a bit too late. I think I started watching it and didn't finish it, which should, but I don't know. It just kind of fell off the map for me, and I was kind of like, yeah. But this one, I really like this one. I saw this in theaters. And I really enjoyed it. And then I bought the big DVD set that had like the comic and all this stuff, and it was. It's cool. Like the behind the scenes stuff is fascinating on how they filmed all this stuff. Yeah, this one's super cool. Also, it's got Clive Owen.
Got your peak Bruce Willis there too.
And Clive Owen. Gotta have more Clive Owen. All right.
Yeah, we gotta do a whole episode devoted to Where Is He Now? I don't know what happened to that guy.
Man, can we do a top 3 Clive Owen movies? Tell you what.
Oh, Shoot 'Em Up is your number one.
Spoilers, man. Come on. Don't spoil
spoilers.
that.
That's not spoilers. How many times have you mentioned Shoot 'Em Up? Come on. Spoilers, he says.
I want to do a top 3 list just so I can talk about Shoot 'Em Up with Clive Owen. Yes. That movie's so good. I want to go watch that movie. All right. Before I start going off about Shoot 'Em Up, Tudong, your number 2 is...
My number 2, which only slightly beat out since he is Scott
No, I'm
Pilgrim.
sorry, number 1.
Huh?
Number 1. I said number 2. I meant number 1.
But it beat out my number 2, Sin City, only by just a hair because of just how much I absolutely loved it. This movie's fantastic. You've got Edgar Wright, and he makes all of these people and all of the things that they say. I should. As soon as I saw it, I was like, I don't know. I don't even know how I feel about this. I just kind of watched it on a whim, and I was like, that's fantastic. I thought that the story was fantastic. And some people say that Scott Pilgrim ended up with the wrong person, but preposterous, says I, preposterous. So,
now, Charlie, do we have a number 1 crossover here?
We do. We do have a number 1 crossover. My number 1 was Shoot 'Em Up, based on the graphic novel Shoot 'Em Up.
Nice.
Oh no.
I had a feeling this would be on your list, so we can lump you two's number 1s together. I didn't put it on. I didn't put it on my list because I knew it was going to be on Charlie's list.
I didn't care. I was like, it couldn't have beat out Sin City. It just beat out just by a hair, and I was like, it's just so good.
It's a very good movie, and this this has a high rewatchability factor to it. It is really enjoyable, and it holds up really well. And I guess it wasn't that long ago, but it's long enough ago where you still kind of got to do the. Is it still good? And still great cast. A lot of fun cameos. It's just really funny. Look, it's about a musician, and it just speaks to my heart. I think there's different layers to enjoying it, but I just think it's really great, and I couldn't recommend it highly enough as a graphic novel or as a video game, if you're into such things. Kind of a fun little punch 'em up. But
Did you read the graphic novel?
Which is streamable. This is one that I actually have, which is why it's my number one, because I have crossed over from just knowing about it and just reading about it to actually reading it. So still really fun. I think the whole concept is really clever.
Right there.
Captain America and the
Look at that.
Look at you.
Woo.
Boom.
Nice.
Wow. And you actually own that. You don't own any of the books. You don't own Sin City. You don't own 300. You don't own any of the other comics, and yet this one you own all of it, and it didn't make your list?
Because I knew it was going to be on your list, Charlie.
Shame and shenanigans.
I knew it would be on your list. I thought about it. I said, "Oh, that could make my list." And I was like, "I know it's going to be on Charlie's list."
It's about it's got music and bands and ultra video game references and kung fu fighting. I mean, it's like the greatest combination of it's like they made it for me. They designed it just based enough on me to just get me salivating every time I think about it.
Well, and especially the visual style that Edgar Wright went with, where it is like it's like you're watching a comic book. All the stuff that whenever you read a comic book and you're like, okay, how would they translate this to movie? This would not translate well to movie. It's got too much stuff. Edgar Wright was like, screw it. Like, you're watching a comic book right now. And so, this might have been my number one. And then we could have had a 3-way crossover, but
yeah,
I would have really enjoyed that 3-way.
Sorry. All right. Well,
I can still enjoy this 2-way.
On that note, do you guys have anything else?
Check streaming services, because this is actually available. You can actually watch this.
This is on HBO, isn't it?
I think it's on several platforms. It was on Netflix as of November. I haven't checked to make sure it's still there. But I think it's also on Paramount Plus or Peacock, one of those two. And then I think it's on several, like maybe 3 different streaming services.
It is an excellent movie. Excellent, by the way. Excellent. Yeah. I saw this the same weekend The Expendables came out. I saw them almost right after the other, and I couldn't believe this had better fight choreography.
Believe it.
It really did. Like, the fight choreography is excellent. Unbelievable. I didn't expect any of these characters or actors to do this stuff, and I was flabbergasted. Excellent.
Flabbergasted. Yeah. That's a word we need more of. All right. Do you guys have anything else to add?
You know what? We talk a lot about movies and television, but make sure you read a book. Indulge the inner, nurture the inner reader inside of you. As Belle from Beauty and the Beast would say, grab Scott Pilgrim and take it for a ride. That's a quote directly from the movie Beauty and the Beast. As she taught reading, she's for it, and so are we here at Talk Punch. We're not just a visual arts podcast. We're also a wordy that you can tell by how good we word things.
It's true.
Words are fun. And with that, I would like to just say, if you had any sort of fun tonight watching, please subscribe. You can hit that little button. Maybe like the video. Give it a thumbs up.
That would be great.
Or just check out some more content underneath the guy with the beard. And remember, I liked Zack Snyder, and the other guys are the worst. So leave them all your mean comments and say nice things about me. I'll see you next time.
Bye.